Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker, Scott Kerschner, and Chaz Price. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. That's 419-794-3030 online, arhq.com. Don't forget, if you missed the first half of the show or you want to catch up on previous editions of the show, just search for America's Retirement Headquarters wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google. Also available on YouTube. Again, just search for America's Retirement Headquarters. Something else that's gotten a lot of views on YouTube is a scene from the 1991 season of Seinfeld, which takes place at a car rental counter.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have no midsize available at the moment.
I don't understand. I made a reservation. Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservation.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car. See, you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation. And that's really the most important part of the reservation, the holding.
So Jerry had assumed the car would be waiting for him. Obviously, that wasn't the case. You know, sometimes we assume that we have enough money for retirement just because we have a plan in place, and we all know what they say about assuming. How can you help make sure that the plan is properly executed, even through unforeseen circumstances?
Well, I know you ran into experience. We were sharing during the break there, talking about car reservations and how that works. But when you're developing a plan, I mean, a lot of times people will develop a plan. We'll look at what's called reasonable withdrawal rates, and that's somebody taking 3 or 4 or 5% withdrawal rates off their retirement for normal living expenses. And so the process that we have put together over the years is called the independent income system. And, if you haven't had a chance to Google the independent income system, I encourage you to do that and take a watch for that video. And it talks for 15 minutes about where there are the biggest threats and opportunities in the marketplace. And a lot of times when people leave the office and we draw out the independent income system, what they'll tell me is they'll say, I finally understand the purpose for what each of my accounts are designed to do. And then my follow-up to that will be, okay, now what could blow it up? And the things that could blow it up would be, number one, an unexpected or unplanned for healthcare crisis. Mm-hmm. And number two, the loss of a loved one and a premature death. Or number three is looking at the sequence of return risk. Now, Scott, we've talked about this before in the past, and we've talked about the fact that a large percentage of people who end up being forced into retirement earlier than what they expected was due to healthcare-related issues, either personally or caring for a loved one. And wouldn't you agree that's one of the biggest risks in retirement?
Yeah, you're setting yourself up for an absolute disaster if you don't have the proper health care put in place. And it's not just having the proper health care put in place, it's understanding it. What I'm finding today is it's actually quite alarming and shocking to me is a lot of people don't even realize or know all of the benefits that they have. And I think part of that problem is shame on us for not properly educating them and meeting with them on a routine annual basis to go over their plan. That's one of the things that I offer when we do annual reviews for everybody. And I'll even take a look at somebody that's not even a client. I'll look at their plan for them. But if you're not properly covered, and you have, I've had some clients recently that have had, they have arthritis and they're getting injections. They're actually transfusions that they're getting to help with this arthritis. I quoted a guy, his cost for the medication was $556,000 a year. Now that's not his cost, but that's the cost of the medication. Mm-hmm. His cost was $34,000. That's $34,000 a year. If you don't have the proper plan put in place, that's out of your pocket 100%. Mm-hmm. So you're right, Nolan. I mean, having the right health plan put in place is really going to help keep your investments where they're supposed to be in moving forward.
Well, that unexpected, unplanned for healthcare crisis absolutely can blow it up for you. And there's a lot of people that are listening that said, I've not done anything about figuring that out yet. I'll worry about that later. And the challenge is something else that you said really kind of hit home for me, and that's understanding what your benefits are. Because as I talk about, one of the other issues is an issue of a spouse passing on early in the retirement years, because Social Security or pension, can make up a big portion of somebody's lifetime income needs at retirement time. And for a married couple, if that surviving spouse's income is not considered, it could be a disaster. I remember doing a presentation. I was over at Swanton, and we were doing a presentation to a group, and this lady had come up after the presentation, really in tears, and was, pulling me off to the side of the presentation because of the fact she wanted to know what would be the advice I would give to her, because when she lost her husband unexpectedly, and he passed away due to health complications, she went and made a claim on their health insurance, and she found out she doesn't get any of his life insurance. Wow. Because the policy she had was called accidental life insurance. He didn't die of an accident, so the insurance company naturally said, sorry, that's not the type of insurance that you have. So absolutely checking that out. Now, Chaz, on the financial side, when we look at it, the other big issue, I think, and why I love the independent income system that we put together for people, is looking at the sequence of return risk. The person that has all of their money in something they can't control, like the stock and bond market, and then you have a major downturn, and then all of a sudden you have to pull money out of the market and sell off at a temporary loss, that can be a big risk. So again, I would say not having the proper health insurance, number one, sequence of return risk, number two, and not planning for and protecting the surviving spouse's income, number three, could be the biggest risk in retirement. Chaz, when you're talking to folks, what are you sharing with them about what their biggest risks are?
Yeah, well, actually, that Seinfeld scene actually happened to myself, and we were down in Savannah. I was actually proposing to Elena that day, and went to the car rental place, and they didn't have a car. Elena had stayed at the Airbnb, and I was afraid she was going through my bag, would find the ring, and so I was freaking out, having to wait. But it kind of reminds me of Social Security a little bit, though, anecdotally, that we kind of had this reservation with Social Security. We had what we thought was going to be a nice, comfortable retirement income that was going to pay for a substantial part of our retirement. And now, there's a potential for millions of Americans not to have what was promised to us. So it's apropos, exactly what Seinfeld was saying. We don't have the reservation. We made the reservation, but the government didn't keep it. And so I think having reliable sources of income is probably the number one thing that I talk about with clients. Through the independent income system, we help develop a plan to make sure that they don't run out of money, and that there's adequate resources for retirement paid, that for the rest of your life, you can't outlive it. And so I think that's one of the bigger things that we do. The last thing that I would say that we talk about our clients is the value of a plan. So when I say financial planning to clients, sometimes I kind of get a little glossy look. But when I say business plan for your finances, that makes a little bit more sense to people. Because in a business, you would never go into it without planning. There's resources, there's income, there's expenses that are going to be coming out. You're going to have opportunities, and there's going to be threats to any business opportunity. And so the financial planning process that we use at America's Retirement Headquarters, and Nolan, I'll give you 100% credit for developing the CFO concept. We are the CFO for your personal finance, like a CFO would be the go-to person in an organization that is going to take care of all things financial. And so through that process of business planning for your personal finances, we'll go through all of these risks. We'll uncover the risk of an extended care stay and extra expenses for medical, retirement income planning. We take care of all of those issues, get them documented out, articulate your goals. And so I think that's probably the number one risk, is not having a financial plan to organize your resources in a way that makes sense, and that's going to help make sure you enjoy your retirement the way you want to.
Previously we spoke about another type of risk, the Social Security risk, and that is involving the solvency of Social Security. There was a lot of questions about that. You mentioned the Social Security risk score, which you guys can run for people complimentary. You can find more information about that by giving a call, or you can actually text SSI risk to the number 419-909-3828. Again, SSI risk 419-909-3828. You can also go to the website as well, schedule a time there, arhq.com.